Have you ever gotten the feedback that you don't have enough presence, the right presence, the elusive executive presence? My name is Margaret Izard Oskoui, and I'm a voice expert and coach. And I'm here to help you learn how to use your voice so it works for you in the workplace. This month, what we're going to be talking about is vocal presence and how to use your voice to have the presence in any room that you walk into the way you want it to be. Very frequently, we have clients come to us saying that they've gotten this kind of feedback, or perhaps they'll say something along the lines of, I will have an idea and people won't hear it, but somebody else, one of my colleagues, will say the exact same thing or something very similar a couple of minutes later or a day later. And all of a sudden, they have the most amazing idea themselves, right? They just reinvented sliced bread. And they don't understand why their voice or their being doesn't have the presence that allows for them to be heard and seen the way they want to be. Maybe it's because they've missed out on this next level promotion that they were looking for, or maybe they got that promotion, but it's kind of tentative and they've been told in order to really be successful in this role, they need to have a stronger presence. A lot of times before clients come to me or make it to my door, what we hear is that they've gone to an executive coach or some kind of professional coach to get that elusive presence. They've worked hard on their physical appearance. They've worked hard on their content to make sure they're delivering what they want to be delivering in a way that works best for their team and their goals. And yet there's still something missing, and that's where voice work comes in, because how you say something is so important and really allows for what it is you're trying to communicate to be vastly more effective. So if you find yourself in a situation where you think, wow, maybe my voice is part of my presence problem, what are some things you can do today to actually help have a stronger presence vocally? Let's think about doing this in a 4-week challenge. So for week 1, I want you to think about volume. Volume, like with so many different things, when it comes to your voice, is not actually all made equal. I'm going to demonstrate this right now. I can talk at you with a loud volume and say, hi, my name is Margaret Izard Oskoui, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Peacock Voices. And that's what I call directional volume. This is the kind of volume I do not suggest using unless you're in a really crowded, loud space like a networking event. Instead, when we think of having a louder volume for greater presence, I like to think of using a vocal hug where we send our sound wide. Hi, my name is Margaret Izard Oskoui, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Peacock Voices. It is just as loud, but it doesn't feel quite as intense. I joke that it doesn't feel like a punch in the face the same way that directional volume can. That said, sometimes with presence and sometimes with how you want to be seen, you don't necessarily need to be louder, but it's how you create a quieter sound. So instead of saying, hi, my name is Margaret Izard Oskoui. Hi, my name is Margaret Izard Oskoui. That second time was just as quiet, but it had more color, more resonance, more richness. It still had that vocal hug. So it's this idea of how you create volume is actually really, really important. So over the next week, I would love for you to practice how you create volume with your voice. If you're someone who's more soft-spoken and you actually do want to be louder in the rooms that you're in, try to think of that vocal hug, sending your sound wide. If you're somebody who still is interested in having a quieter, more soft-spoken communication style, think about making sure you're still supporting your sound enough so you have that nice richness. For week 2 of our challenge on vocal presence, I want you to think about resonance. If you don't know the term resonance, you might know the term tone of voice. I don't know about you, but I definitely have heard, don't use that tone with me when I was younger, right? But it's this idea that our resonance, or how we utilize our resonance, actually affects our tone of voice, which affects how people feel about the content of what we're saying. So if I speak to you like this with a forward resonance that has a couple other vocal attributes added to it, it's going to make you feel differently than if I speak like this. where I've changed my resonance and again, a couple different attributes vocally. So understanding this resonance shift or this tone shift will allow you to have more control. And when we think about having more vocal presence, at least in America, in the workforce, we really want to make sure we're utilizing a richer resonance. The reason being is that there's a lot of research out there that tells us that lower pitched voices are heard as having stronger leadership qualities and are seen as more knowledgeable. Now, we don't want to artificially lower our speaking voice or lower our pitch frequency because that can start to sound really inauthentic in our bodies. So instead of Peacock Voices, we use resonance to give the perception of a lower sound. So this is the pitch frequency I'm using. If I go forward here and I'm using forward resonance, the only thing I'm changing while using this pitch frequency is my resonance. And now I'm going to demonstrate as I use further back resonance, this is the same pitch frequency. And now I'm speaking here with this richer resonance. And this is going to be perceived as lower than this, right? Even though they're the same pitch frequency, one is colored as richer, darker, lower perceived. So that's what we're looking for. So for this week, what I want you to do is imagine feeling the vibrations that your vocal folds are creating, living a little bit further back in your mouth and throat. So instead of sending your sound forward, imagine your sound living further back. And this will create that perception of a lower sound, which will give you those stronger leadership qualities as you're speaking. For week 3 of our vocal presence challenge, we are going to talk about clarity of sound and the fact that it's really important to have a clear and healthily vibrated speaking voice. There are 2 ways I like to think about this or talk about this. The first is vocal fry. Vocal fry is what occurs when there isn't enough air pressure underneath your vocal folds for you to create a clear sound. And so instead you get kind of this creaky sound that I'm demonstrating right now. A lot of times this can happen at the ends of phrases or the ends of sentences. So I always joke, if you've watched TV or listened to NPR, you have probably heard someone slip into vocal fry. Again, it's this kind of creaky sound. The other way I like to talk about when it comes to clarity of sound is aspiration. And aspiration is breathiness or extra air in your speaking voice. This can happen to folks when they get really nervous. Sometimes people say, all of a sudden I feel like I'm out of breath. So making sure that you have really clear phonation or that really clean, clear sound allows for you to have more volume and more presence from a vocal perspective. It will also help you showcase other vocal attributes you might be playing with on your own. For week 4 of our vocal presence challenge, I want to address inflection. We actually spent a whole month on the power of inflection and how to work inflection into your speaking voice just last month. And if you did not see that, I would highly suggest you go back and watch that video, read that blog post, do those exercises. Inflection is critical for having vocal presence. It is how we keep our audience engaged. So for this week, what I want you to do is make sure you're really checking in on your inflection. Make sure you're utilizing that tool all the time. Remembering that you always want to have inflection in your speech pattern. You want to make sure that it changes in pitch difference as you're using it. And it's an incredible tool to guide your listener, to showcase what the most important word in any sentence or phrase is. Because if you use bigger inflection, that signals to your listener, that's important. After doing all of this work, taking these 4 weeks to really work on all these various aspects of having more vocal presence, volume, resonance, quality of sound, inflection, I hope you feel more confident in having a stronger, more powerful presence in the workplace. As always, I hope this was interesting, that you learned something new. And if you want to continue learning more about how to make your voice work for you, please like and follow so that you can keep up to date with all of our tips and tricks. Have a wonderful day.